One of the nice things in Photoshop is not only do you have the crop tool, but you also have a perspective crop tool to take advantage of distorted perspective issues that might come up when photographing architecture. So to prove that, I'm going to go to File and Open. On my desktop, I will go out and find my Chapter 3 folder, and I have folder 3.2. Okay, you'll notice in these files, it says number 1 is fixing the perspective demo only. You're not going to turn this one in. Okay, it's just to show you how the perspective crop tool works. Then once you know how it works, you will fix the distorted perspective on this building in downtown LA. So again, I'm going to start down here, click and drag up over both of them, and I'll open them. So this is the one you're going to turn in if you're doing this for my class. But to learn how to fix the perspective, we're going to go to file number 1, demo only. Okay, and I'll just move my layers panel kind of out of the way. And you can see in this photo, we've got a lot of verticals in this architecture. We've got the columns, the edge of the building, the lamp posts. Those should not be leaning in like they're falling over. Okay, so when you have a photo like this, I recommend you take your zoom tool. Don't zoom in, but zoom out so you have a little bit of empty space around your photo to work with. Then you go to the third tool down, your crop tool, press and hold, and you have a perspective crop tool. So all you have to do is start outside the photo, click and drag all the way across. So you establish one big crop boundary, like the normal crop tool. But the difference here is that you can pull these corners apart. So notice how this corner and this corner line up against the top edge of the photo. So to keep it on the top edge, you hold your Shift key. And now I pull this corner in to kind of line it up at the same angle as our lamp post right there. Okay, these corners do not like to be pulled in. So what I'm essentially telling Photoshop is that I don't want this to be the corner of my photo. I want this to be the corner. And it's going to pull that back to the left. It's going to pull this lamp post back to the left. It's going to pull this side of the building back to the left. I'll do the same thing over here. Hold my Shift key, pull this corner in so it is kind of parallel with that lamp post or parallel with that edge of the building. And then all I have to do on my PC is hit Enter. On my Mac, I will hit Return. And now I've got a building that is not falling over. My lamp posts are nice and straight. My building is standing upright. If you looked at the measurements and you could see a little bit of space here, but almost double that space there, you would just switch back to the normal crop tool, which automatically starts a crop boundary, and just pull the side in like that. And then when you have the same measurements, you hit Enter or Return, and you got a nice balanced composition. But again, you're not going to turn in this file. So I can click the little X. I don't need to save that one. This is the building that looks like it's falling inward. You can see the angles are not straight like the vertical nature of this photo. The angles are coming in. So the building's kind of imploding. So again, I go to my crop tool. I press and hold, and I want the perspective crop tool. That's why I always give myself a little bit of room around the photo. I'll start above the corner, drag all the way across the photo. And again, since these line up along the top edge, I hold my Shift key and I'll pull this angle inward right here, right about there. Kind of very close to the angle of that building. Hold Shift key and pull this angle in, kind of go a little parallel with this angle of that part of the building. And when I hit Enter or Return, the building will be standing a little more vertical. Now I can see I didn't quite get that angle right over here. Okay, so if you screw that up like I just did, you have to go to Edit, Undo, and try it again. Click and drag. I'll hold my Shift key and drag this one in, right about there with the angle of that building. Right about there. I'll hold Shift and drag this one in a little more to compensate for that angle over here. And when I hit Enter on a PC or Return on my Mac, I've got a building standing more vertical. Okay, the only thing that is also going to happen is when you pull those corners out, it will slightly squish the photo. So what I recommend then is you double click the background layer. We'll just call this building. And then on my move tool, I hit Command T on a Mac to transform. That would be Control T on a PC. And in order to stretch the building, to slightly distort it and stretch it to its more vertical nature, you hold your Shift key. Now I can pull the bottom edge down, make the building look a little more vertical there. See, if I hold Shift, I can squish it. Or here, it's slightly distorted, so I'll stretch it out a little bit. And there we go. All I have to do is hit Enter or Return. And there we go. Got a nice vertical building. If you still think the angle is off a little bit on this building, go to your perspective, drag another one. Hold Shift. I'll pull this edge in just a little bit more. Hit Return. And now I've got a building. Well, now the building's leaning a little bit more to the left. So I probably had it right the first time. But that's the idea, is you can go back in and fine tune these shots if you want to, or just undo if that was too much. But I like this look. Okay, once you're done, you're gonna have an editable layer. So as a reminder to yourself that you know the photo is done, you can go to your Layers panel pop-up menu and go all the way down to flatten out the image. When it says background, you are done. You can't transform it, you can't move it, you can't really do much with it. So when it says background, I'm good to go. The other thing I would recommend is when you are done using the perspective crop tool, press and hold and go back to the normal crop. Unless you're a building photographer, you're probably not going to be using too much of the perspective crop tool, but it's nice to know that it's there and what it is used for. So now that we got a building that's standing upright, File menu, Save a copy. I always save it to my desktop. I make sure it's a JPEG when I'm done, and I'll call this one last name, first name, perspective, crop. It's a JPEG. I go to save it, and I want it to be a high quality JPEG if I'm turning this in for a class assignment. And there we go. Once you're done, you can hit the X to close it. You don't need to save it again because it's on your desktop. And that's how you use your perspective crop tool here in Photoshop.